He was born from the world's silence, a god forged in the crucible of rage and despair. When the dust settled and the noise of his creation faded, there was nothing left but the quiet hum of his own power. In that deafening stillness, Devil Jin first opened his eyes, not to a world of color and life, but to one of raw, untamed energy. He could feel it all: the spin of the planet, the pull of the moon, the silent scream of every living thing. It was a symphony of existence, and he was its unwilling conductor. This awareness was a curse. He saw the world not as a place to live, but as a map of power sources, a grid of strengths and weaknesses. He could trace the lineage of a storm from a single butterfly's wingbeat. He could feel the tectonic plates shifting beneath continents. He could hear the whispered prayers of a million souls and the silent anguish of a million more. This divine perception didn't connect him to the world. It severed him from it. He wasn't a part of it. He was an observer, a celestial body looking down on a world he could never touch. This isolation became his reality. He stood on the precipice of creation, a solitary figure against an infinite backdrop. He saw humanity with its fleeting joys, its petty squabbles, its desperate search for meaning, and he felt nothing. Their laughter was a foreign frequency, their tears a meaningless liquid. They were like ants scurrying on the ground below, their entire existence a brief, frantic dance he could extinguish with a thought. His power was a wall, a fortress of solitude that no emotion could penetrate. Love, friendship, kinship, these were words from a language he no longer spoke. He walked among them, but he was not one of them, a ghost in the machine of life. He would see families sharing a meal, friends laughing at a joke, lovers holding hands, and it was like watching a film in a language he couldn't comprehend. He tried to remember what it was like, to feel that warmth, to be a part of something smaller than the cosmos. But the memories were faded photographs belonging to someone else, to the boy named Jin Kazama. Devil Jin had no past, only an eternal, agonizing present. The silence grew louder, the loneliness heavier. A god without purpose is a paradox. A weapon without a target is just dead weight. He looked at his own hands, vessels of apocalyptic power, and felt an emptiness that rivaled the void of space. What was the point of this strength if there was no one to measure it against? What was the meaning of being the strongest if there was no second strongest? The world was a chessboard, and he was the only piece on it. So he decided to make a move. He would force the world to speak to him in the only language he understood, the language of power. He would shatter its peace, ignite its conflicts, and from the ashes, he hoped the challenger would rise. He unleashed his might upon the world, not out of malice, but out of a desperate, cosmic boredom. War became his voice, devastation his invitation. He tore through armies, leveled cities, and challenged the very foundations of civilization. Each act of destruction was a question. Are you there? Is there anyone who can match me? He plunged the world into an era of chaos. Nations fell, alliances crumbled, and humanity was united by a common enemy, him. He became the singular focus of all their power, all their technology, all their hatred. He wanted to provoke a response, and he got one. The world screamed back at him. From the smoke and ruin, heroes emerged, warriors honed by the very crisis he had created. They came at him with everything they had, with courage, with sacrifice, with the desperate strength of those defending their homes. He met them all, the martial arts masters, the genetically engineered soldiers, the cyborgs, the ancient spirits. He fought them on mountaintops, in crumbling cities, and in the heart of volcanic craters. For fleeting moments, in the heat of battle, he felt a flicker of something, a spark of connection. When a punch was thrown with true conviction, when a gaze met his with unwavering resolve, he felt a sliver of recognition. Here, in the dance of combat, was a conversation he could almost understand, but it was never enough. One by one, they all fell. Each victory, instead of bringing satisfaction, only deepened his solitude. He would stand over a defeated opponent, the last ember of their defiance fading from their eyes, and the silence would rush back in, more profound than before. He had sought an equal, and in proving there were none, he had only reinforced the walls of his prison. He was a mountain that could not be climbed, a storm that could not be weathered. He came to a chilling realization. His power, the very thing that defined him, had cost him everything. It had taken his humanity, his connections, his ability to feel. He was a king on a throne of cosmic dust, ruling over an empire of one. He remembered the boy, Jin, and the simple things he had fought for. His mother's memory, justice, peace. Those concepts now seemed impossibly distant, like stars from a dead galaxy. Devil Jin fought for nothing but the fight itself, and in winning every battle, he had lost the war for his own soul. His quest for a rival had been a fool's errand. He was looking for another god in a world of mortals. He had shouted into the abyss, and the only answer was his own echo. The war he started wasn't a search for an equal, it was a desperate attempt to feel something, anything other than the crushing weight of his own omnipotence. He was a child screaming in an empty house, hoping someone would hear, and so, he stood at the end of it all, having conquered the world and found it empty. He had achieved absolute victory, and with it, he inherited absolute loneliness. There were no more challenges to face, no more mountains to conquer. The board was clear. He had won the game, but as he looked out at the broken world he had created, a world now as silent and empty as his own heart, he finally understood. The ultimate prize for being the strongest being in the universe was to be the only one. He was finally, and forever, alone. The god of power had become the prisoner of his own strength, with only the silence for company.